to the phone.
It is.
Yeah,
Okay.
Quiet, please.
It's like in the, oh,
Maria Mills' visit to Harper Lee in Monroeville, Alabama. As Chicago Tribune reporter, Maria Mills became with Nell Harper Lee toward the end of the great novelist's life. Ms. Mills, a small-town girl from Wisconsin, describes Monroeville, Alabama. One day, walking out of the post office, built in 1933, complete with WPA mural inside, I paused at the top of the steps and looked around. What would the people who populated the square in the 1920s, Mockingbird days, make of it now? Everything is oversized. Parked across the street in front of the old courthouse are pickup trucks and SUVs so big you don't step into them so much as climb on up. Inside, cup holders outnumber passenger seats and stand ready for plastic bottles of Coke that hold 3 times what the little glass ones did. People themselves are larger too, wider, and a bit taller. A family with an average income lives with a level of comfort and electronic convenience their 30s counterparts couldn't fathom. Not everything has changed. Even now, you're likely to strike up a conversation at the post office. A shop owner might call you by name at Darby's Red and White Grocery. Still, like most of the country, the town swells with stuff and selections are endless. I told Nell that I thought a Depression-era resident who stood where I stood that day, taking in the contemporary scene, would be dazzled and appalled. Dazzled at the convenience and choice and prosperity, even in a struggling town, but also appalled by the excess, the move away from a strict moral code, the way people don't look each other in the eye as much. Well, a few pages later, Maria and Nell dine at a Mexican restaurant, the Laredo Grill, in a nearby town. To their surprise, the place was crowded with East Indians. Nell, curious as always, queried the waitress. These East Indians, 4 generations of different families, run motels in Monroe and Conecuh counties. Nell was fascinated. She apologized for keeping the waitress, but asked more questions. How long had most of these people lived here? How did they choose this restaurant as their gathering place? The waitress wasn't sure. It was impossible for me to watch Nell's fascination with the subculture of Indian families running motels in modern-day Mockingbird country and not feel a pang once again for all the writing she might have done. She admired their industriousness, especially at a time when she felt too many people born and raised in the area felt that the world owed them a living. I couldn't help but envision a novel. To Kill a Mockingbird, published in 1960 when Harper Lee was 34 years old, has sold over 40 million copies. It has been translated into Swedish and Urdu and dozens more languages. Nell Harper Lee could have spent her life at all of the jet-set watering holes. San Moritz, Paris, Palm Springs, Monte Carlo, Aspen, the Seychelles, London, Rome, Acapulco, wherever. Instead, she split her time equally between New York and Monroeville. She felt at home in her small town, but she never put out on the rose-colored glasses. The town fathers capitalized on her fame, hoping to stimulate tourism by dubbing Monroeville the literary capital of Alabama. Nell remarked caustically, the literary capital of Alabama doesn't read. Monroe County went for Trump 2-1. Maria describes it in 2001. This was a poor county in a poor state. Where were the jobs now that the Vanity Fair factory scaled back? The apparel manufacturer set up shop here in 1937. It became the town's economic engine, propelling it out of the worst of the Depression. There were a lot of jobs for men, and for the first time at these wages, women. But most of the manufacturing work had gone elsewhere in recent years. The money tourists spent on meals and motels didn't make up for the jobs lost to cutbacks and closings. Monroeville suffered an unemployment rate of 18%. Today, the unemployment rate is 9.2% when the national average is 4.7%. So the Clinton boom missed them. The Obama boom cut the rate in half. Still too high, obviously. Fertile ground for the false promises of the Trump campaign. Can anyone in Monroe County tell me whether the various Trump apparel products are manufactured there? If not, why not? If he would not invest in Monroe County as a free private capitalist, what makes you think he cares? He cares that Ivanka's line of Chinese-made apparel has been downgraded at Nordstrom. That's right, presidential nepotism and advocacy for a foreign-made apparel. Those clothes aren't made at the Vanity Fair factory in Monroeville. They're not made at the Lion factory in Beattyville, Kentucky, or any of the shuttered textile mills across the South. American carnage, right? How long are you going to let this guy piss on your back and tell you it's raining? Perhaps you don't really want to work? Was your vote for Trump all about opportunity or entitlement? Let's look at a few things Mario attributes to Harper Lee. 1. Too many people born and raised in the area felt that the world owed them a living. To me, it seems that the Trumpoids have decided that the rest of us cannot march into the future unless we pay them off. They have voted to apply the brakes to the 21st century economy. No to clean energy, no to automation, no to cap and trade, yes to more nuclear weapons, yes to a Putin-style kleptocracy, and if the Chinese do not likewise apply the brakes to their economy, yes to nuclear blackmail. Speaking of the Chinese, did you notice that they finally, after a decade in their courts, will allow the licensing of the Trump name? Was he angling for that all along? Is that why he decided that the emoluments clause of the Constitution does not apply to him? Still don't feel that hot piss is cascading down your back? I think y'all are modern day Luddites. I, for one, am willing to pay you off to retain my political liberty. Just take a look at my essay, The Grand Bargain. 2. Let's put two of Mario's statements side by side. I thought that a Depression-era resident would be dazzled and appalled, dazzled at the convenience, choice, and prosperity. Later, Mario wrote, this is a poor town in a poor state. Where are the jobs now? This raises the issue of relative deprivation, a favorite concept of left-leaning sociologists. It is an utterly materialistic concept. In other words, if one is not driving a gas-guzzling SUV, one is being screwed over by the system. Objectively, how bad off are you? After all, your great-granddaddy would be dazzled by your prosperity. Why do you feel so poor? Are you laden with debt? How did you acquire that debt? Did you really need all of that junk purchased on the credit card? Do you take responsibility, or is it easier to blame all the spics, the chinks, and the towelheads? Is urban America, liberal America, really screwing you over? The numbers don't justify that conclusion. Blue states are net givers to federal coffers. Red states are net takers. But we are generous people. We are willing to lend a helping hand. Leave our sanctuary cities alone, and we'll let that screwball in the White House skew the infrastructure bill in your favor. Just dump the fascism, okay? 3. Lastly, did you note the contempt in Nell statement? The literary capital of Alabama doesn't read? I want to make a book recommendation at the end of each of these essays. You should all be familiar with the greatest American novel of the 20th century, To Kill a Mockingbird. So I'll skip that. Today I'll recommend Old Jules by Marie Sandoz. Old Jules is set in the sandhills of northwest Nebraska during the time when the frontier was closing. Marie Sandoz paints an unblinking, unflinching portrait of her father, an unforgettable character. I guarantee your absorption in the story. Turn off the damn television and start reading. Feed your soul. Maybe you'll stop supersizing yourselves and get the credit card under control.